Hello and welcome to my podcast. Tonight I will be talking to you about my favorite album, The Boy with the Arab Strap by Belle and Sebastian. This album was released in 1998, and a year later, Belle and Sebastian won the Brit Award for Best Newcomer. A little backstory on the band: Belle and Sebastian was made from a continuing education songwriting recording class in Glasgow, Scotland, when the teacher realized that Stuart Murdoch had a great skill for songwriting and was really talented. Murdoch had been suffering with ME, which is like a fatigue syndrome, like chronic fatigue syndrome, was kind of bedridden for years on end. According to a YouTube interview with NME, he never wrote before he got sick. So this illness, while it was not a blessing, it allowed him to spend all of his time on songwriting and becoming the awesome songwriter that so many people know today. So Belle and Sebastian, and this record especially, you could label it as twee. The twee label, I feel like it doesn't give it the layers that this album has, the layers of talent, of songwriters, of instruments, of lyrics. According to the Pitchfork review of this album, Arab Strap and its follow-up, feature some of Murdoch's darkest songwriting, but the band itself was nevertheless tagged heavy with a lighthearted twee tag, in large part due to the wan vocals of the other three songwriters. And then Rolling Stone magazine labeled their sound as of 1998 as teen innocence porn that makes indie rock fans cry mama, which that's kind of the stereotype, and I think that this album actually is so much more than that stereotype. Another source from Reddit, not as trustworthy, but an honest opinion that I agree with, says that this band is the most literate band since the Smiths, which I think that puts it very simply and very well. They might not be up to par with Morrissey, but they're still really freaking good. So the first thing that was really stands out as you listen to this album, as I listen to this album over and over again, is the songwriters and the vocals. So there are male and female voices in the songs on this album, which for me gives it like a more of a patchwork feeling. It's like a lot of different pieces of art, which obviously these pieces of art kind of are cohesive and make sense together, but they're also very different from each other. According to Nick's Vinyl Picks, there are more people and more stories heard through the four vocalists than in the album, rather than if there was only one. According to the Pitchfork review, critics and fans were kind of mad that he didn't have an album with just him singing, with like they'd been waiting for a bunch of songs written and sung by him. So when he showed up with other people singing, they were like, what are you doing? According to the Rolling Stone review of this album, an array of instruments were used in this album, including slide guitars, bagpipes, and motor trance rhythms, which I don't really know what those are, but that's cool, strings, xylophones, trumpets, flutes, and organs. Interesting. To an extent, you could hear those things, but like, I didn't know there were bagpipes on this album until I did some research, okay? All these different instruments add layers. All of the voices, the different people singing adds layers. This is just like, there's so many more layers to this album than like people thought when it first came out. So this album came out a year after their second record, If You're Feeling Sinister, which was a hit, and so most people just compared it to If You're Feeling Sinister, and they were all negative comparisons, unfortunately. For example, Sleep the Clock Around, there's this one like weird like ringing synthy like whirring almost sound in the beginning of the song, and you're kind of like, what is the sound? It's the Roland Jupiter synthesizer. All I know is that it kind of helped to give a circular feeling to the song. It kind of felt circular, like sleep the clock around. But it just kind of helped me to feel it in my brain. But this song is the only song that was about Murdoch's chronic illness. Like when you listen to the song, it's like lighthearted. Sleeping the clock around, I'm just sleeping. No, I have a chronic, crippling illness that makes me not able to get out of bed. This band and this record really showed like how they can make, you know, lighthearted messages, but also really heavy messages in a very lighthearted or seemingly lighthearted way. So for the lyrics, Belle and Sebastian, I feel like they're just a band that's well known for the lyrics of their songs. And like after listening to this album, even one time I was like, wait, what? Why did they just say that? You know, like I thought we were supposed to be like serious in songwriting. What? Like, what is this concept of being absolutely absurd? Like, for example, you liked Chris's jacket? Who is Chris? They liked his jacket, okay, who cares? But that's like the beauty of it, you know? Who cares? No one has to care. No one has to care, because a lot of these lyrics, if you actually look at them, you're like, what are you talking about? But that's the thing, like you can make the most beautiful song you've ever heard, which was this song, before I even knew the lyrics. You can make it so beautiful, and the lyrics just make it even more beautiful, even if it's the stupidest thing you've ever heard. Just songwriting that just so cohesive with the actual melodies that are playing, that you can feel like the theme of whatever message they're trying to send, which usually there isn't really a message. The sound of early Belle and Sebastian. So according to an interview by The Guardian, the band's sound has been greatly compared to Nick Drake, Hazy Jane II, especially. I feel like Nick Drake and Stewart's voice is also kind of similar, so that makes it, people think that they're similar, but I think they just happen to be like similar sounds. Murdoch says that they were inspired by Love's record Forever Changes. Yeah, and when I listened to that today, I could see some like vague similarities, but for the most part, like I didn't think it was that similar. All in all, I love this album because just the feeling it gives you is a feeling that I've never felt before, because I've never, you know, been surrounded by this world in my AirPods of absurdity and tragedy and really good melodies, beautiful voices, and like just like a different feeling. And like I will be honest, like this is the kind of like music that I'm not like itching to be like, oh yeah, I like Belle and Sebastian, because most people be like, I don't care. And even if they listen to one of their songs, they'd be like, what is he talking about? Which like I ask myself that sometimes too. If I was to critique this album at all, I feel like for me, it kind of loses its grip on me after like the halfway mark of the album, and I do get bored. It's not like every single song is a banger. It's like 90% of the songs are bangers, but the last two I'm like, I'm yawning, I want to move to the next album. But usually when I get to those songs on the album, I'm on an airplane, because I love listening to this album when I'm like on an airplane. I'm asleep by the time those songs come on, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say. I'm really excited.